This report, I think, is kind of interesting. This is from studyfinds.org. It says, when tragic events happen, no matter how far away from us they are, it's hard not to pay attention. Many of us empathize with the people in these situations and wonder how we can get involved or if there's anything we can do to help. Over the past few years, we've borne witness to a series of pivotal global events, from the COVID pandemic to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, as well as many natural disasters. Just when it seemed that things could not get worse, Hamas launched an attack on Israel. But as the report continues to explain, citing various different scientific supposed authorities, that all of this leads to what they're calling compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is a stress response that results in feelings of apathy or indifference towards those who are suffering. This phenomenon is particularly common in healthcare. Health and social workers may be particularly prone because the nature of their work often means sharing the emotional burden of your patients. But we're being told that compassion fatigue is a widespread phenomenon now. And what they're saying is because so many horrible things are happening in the world, and so people are fatigued, and it's making, it's having the reverse effect of making them more indifferent to world events. And, compassion fatigue sounds like the kind of concept that I would make fun of, and maybe by all rights I should. But I will shock you and say that I think there's some validity to this idea. Now, I'm not sure I would call it compassion fatigue. That's probably not the phrase I would use to describe the phenomenon. But it is a real phenomenon, and it's a consequence of all of us being plugged in and aware of everything happening everywhere all the time. And not just aware of it, but to be immersed in it. And it's not even like maybe what it would have been in the past if you pick up a newspaper and you get a very small sort of curated collection of all the things that are happening in the world. And then you put the newspaper down and you go about your day. Now it's just a constant onslaught of everything happening all the time. And it's not just articles, but it's videos and it's images. And if there's some really horrible thing that happened that we're all going to see, whether we want to see it or not, if you're on social media, you're scrolling along and then boom, right in front of your face, you didn't even choose to watch it. You just saw someone get shot or killed or blown up. I mean, this is what we're all, this is the situation we're all in. And it isn't natural. And I don't even think that we quite grasp just how unnatural all of this is. Human beings are not meant to carry around in our heads, in our consciences, this awareness of thousands of things happening thousands of miles away from us. I think it has us totally overwhelmed and numb. It has our priorities wildly out of balance. And the worst thing is that we're all suffering from this, right? From this, if we want to call it compassion fatigue. And yet we wield it against each other in certain opportune times. Like, we all understand what this is like. And we all know that you can't be emotionally invested in everything. And we all know that. And yet, if something bad happens in the world, and if you don't appear to be immediately devastated by it, if you aren't obsessively focused on it, if you aren't as angry and sad as you are supposed to be, then other people will go, well, why don't you care about this? What about this, huh? Why aren't you talking about this? Why don't you care about this more? Why don't you focus on this more? Well, I don't know. Maybe because I'm a human being. Maybe because I can't care deeply about everything happening in the world always. Maybe I'm only emotionally capable of being invested in a very limited number of events at a time. Maybe again because I'm a human like you. With profiling, surveillance, and data harvesting, there are lots of things not to like about tech giants, but what can you actually do about it when you rely on so many of their products? Well, the good news is it doesn't take much for you to take a stand. For less than $7 a month, you can join me and fight back against big tech by using ExpressVPN. How do you think big tech companies make all their money? Well, by tracking your searches, video history, and everything you click on, and then selling your personal data. ExpressVPN helps you anonymize much of your online presence by hiding your IP address, a unique identifier that every device has that allows big tech to match your activity back to you. That's why I use ExpressVPN on all my devices to make it much more difficult for them to exploit my data for their own profits. The best part is how easy it is to use. I just tap one button on my phone or computer to turn it on. That's all it takes to keep people out of my business. So If you don't like big tech tracking you and selling your personal data for a profit, it's time to fight back. Visit expressvpn.com/Walsh right now to protect your online freedom and privacy. That's expressvpn.com/Walsh, expressvpn.com/Walsh. For most homeowners, window replacement is not something they've done before, and for many, it isn't something that they want to do, but rather something they have to do. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, I have great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and a free price quote from Renewal by Andersen. Renewal by Andersen's signature service is committed to giving you the best customer experience possible through the perfect combination of the best people in the industry, a superior process, and an exclusive product. Right now, Renewal by Andersen is offering a free in-home or virtual consultation on durable quality, affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. Text Walsh to 200-300 for your free consultation to save $375 off every window and $750 off every door. These savings won't last long, so be sure to check it out by texting Walsh to 200-300. That's Walsh to 200-300. Texting privacy policy, terms, conditions, posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. Go to windowappointmentnow.com for full offer details. You know, there was a massacre, I think I can't even remember where it was, in Sudan just a few days ago. Hundreds of innocent people butchered, men, women, children. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody is talking about that. Nobody in this country is talking about it or pretending to care. And I'm not talking about it either. This is the first time you've heard it from me. And you know what? When I heard about it, I didn't shed a single tear. I didn't. Now, not because I'm cruel or callous. I recognize that it's a terrible tragedy. From an intellectually I care. Intellectually, I see it as a sad thing. I recognize that. I understand it. But I simply cannot be distraught and devastated by all tragedies that occur everywhere. Because otherwise, I will be distraught and devastated all the time with no break between one tragedy to the next. And that's just not, it's not even like, when I say can't, I mean, it's not just that it would be difficult to operate that way. I mean, literally can't. The human mind is not capable of that. Neither is yours. Nobody's is. And that's why we all typically prioritize and care the most about the things that are closest to us. And so that's the thing that is the most frustrating, is that it's one thing to be like constantly aware of everything, all the bad things, constantly, always, and we're surrounded by it all the time. It's one thing for that, but it's another thing again when our natural human impulses and wiring is used against us by other people who know exactly what they're doing. And because this is how all people operate, right? If there's some tragedy, like you will prioritize the things and care the most about the things that are happening closest to you. That's the way it goes. The things that you are connected to. Those are the things that you care the most about. Which is why, let's say, in your community, if there's a car accident in your community and a child is killed, you will probably, if it's in your community, especially if it's someone that you know, you will feel much more emotionally devastated by that than by a report of a massacre of 500 people 5,000 miles away. Even though the other thing is like objectively worse, more people died. You care more about the other thing. Not because you're cruel, not because you're a sociopath, but because you're a human. And that's how we are meant to be, is you care about the things that are closest to you. Everybody does. And so if there's something happening far away that you really care a lot about, it's only because you perceive yourself as having some personal connection to it. That's why. That's how it's so selective. You know, it's like we all care about things closest to us, and then when it comes to like global tragedies, and there's a never-ending supply of them, everyone's very selective about which ones they say, oh, we should care about. Well, it's because if you perceive a personal connection to it, that's why you care about it. And then you turn around to other people who don't perceive that personal connection, and you get angry at them. One way or another, we all care primarily about the things that are closest to us, and that is natural. It's how it's supposed to be. It's why, like, ultimately, one of the many reasons why probably the internet and social media is let me back up. Not probably. The internet and social media, definitely a net negative for mankind. It exists, and I believe that I'm here right now. So since it exists and it's not going anywhere, we should try to use it as best we can for good. But the best thing would be if I could just snap my fingers and make it all disappear, I would, because one of the many problems with it is how it just works against our basic human wiring. And it takes us away from the immediate, like our communities, our families. These are the things we should care more about those. And if someone says, well, why you care more about that? Then, well, of course I care more about that. I'm supposed to. That's the right approach. But it takes us out of that. And it kind of like, we only have a certain amount of compassion that we're capable of. And it just sort of like disperses it everywhere. And to the point where it's sort of dispersed into nothingness. And I think that's what's happening. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.